everybody, Wannabe Reviewer here, and welcome back to the Wannabe Podcast, Episode 5. Speaking of which, I don't know how many of you tuned into last week's podcast, but it's kind of funny because there was this moment near the end, as I was getting ready to, close up, that I mentioned how this week's podcast would be Episode 5, and I was just so surprised because I'm like, wow, I can't believe I've already been doing this for a month. The time went by so quickly. And the funny thing is that since then, I've been really thinking about the channel and putting everything into perspective. And I've been doing this for 2 years already. Like, just about. Because I don't know how many of you know this, but I opened this channel up on October 31st, 2016. Like, sure, I didn't put up my first video till like November something. But still, that's when I opened the channel, started setting everything up, all the ideas and everything. And it's just mind-blowing that I've been doing this for 2 years already. Like, I can remember the day I opened the channel like it was just yesterday. And it's crazy because I had all these ideas and all these videos I wanted to make. But I was so, worried about putting myself out there. And I was thinking stuff like, will anyone want to watch what I have to say? I mean, is anyone even interested in my content? Will I ever have more than just a handful of subscribers? I wasn't sure about the channel. And then cut to now, and I wouldn't say I'm uber successful. I mean, I'm no PewDiePie or whatever. I still have, over 800 subscribers and over 48,000 views. And I have met all these awesome people, not just on YouTube, but on Reddit and Twitter and stuff. And it's just, wow, it's mind-blowing to see the road I've taken to get here. When I started the channel, I wouldn't have expected any of this at all. And I don't know, not only that, but I'm just so grateful to all of you. To everyone who watches my videos and leaves comments and likes and listens to the podcast and everything. I'm just so grateful. And I know I talk about, giving shout outs to people who watch my stuff all the time. I probably sound like a broken record, but it's just that it's true. I really appreciate all of you for your support. And yeah, I mean, just taking a step back and looking at the big picture is just so interesting. And I'm just so happy with how everything has gone so far. And I just definitely look forward to the future. I hope in the future I can, make more content, different content, maybe some team ups with some people. I don't know. I'm just excited. And basically that's all I wanted to say, guys. I mean, I know it's kind of out of nowhere, but I've just been thinking a lot about the channel this past week. Like I said, with that 2-year anniversary coming, and I just want to share that with you guys. And I don't know, hopefully it's interesting in some way. Hopefully you guys aren't totally yeah, whatever. But anyway, don't worry. I'm going to start with my week now. So yeah. Speaking of which, I'm actually going to start my week off a little bit differently. Instead of focusing on the anime I watched, I'm actually going to start with some manga I read. Because anime is great, don't get me wrong, but something about being able to sit down and read some manga, I don't know, it's just a more personal experience, it's a more quiet experience. It's kind of hard to describe, but the point is I have a whole list of manga that I've been wanting to read, and I finally had some time. So I sat down and I started 2 different series, and so I'm going to talk about them. I want to share with you guys. So the first one I want to share is a manga called Goodnight Punpun. And if that sounds weird, you have no idea. Basically, the easiest way to describe this manga is that it is basically a story about growing up. We follow an individual through their elementary school years, middle school years, high school years, ending in their early 20s. And it's all about growing up. And it's all about following this individual through his romances and his issues with his family and his interaction with friends. And there's a lot of darker subject matter I hear. I haven't gone to it yet. But yeah. And what makes this manga really interesting is that everyone is drawn as a normal human except for Punpun and his family. For whatever reason, they're drawn as cartoon penguins. Which, yeah, I know it sounds really weird. But yeah, they're drawn as cartoon penguin creatures. And I actually looked into this because I was really curious about what the reason for that might be. And there's not really a specific explanation. But from what I've seen as like suggestions for like why this might be, number one, because it's said that by him standing out so much, you know what I mean? Like he obviously like doesn't belong in the world. He like looks really weird. Apparently it kind of helps you self-insert, which I can kind of see, you know what I mean? Because he feels so out of place that I guess you can self-insert into what you're reading. Number two, because it's supposed to help like lessen the blow of some of the dark subject matter, which I guess I could kind of see because, you know, if something bad's happening and you see this like penguin creature there, I guess it kind of, you know, it makes it less dark. But then at the same time, number three is that it's supposed to also make it that much more unsettling, which I guess is also true. So it's like a weird mix, you know? But yeah, so far I am really enjoying it. I've read through like 40 chapters out of 147. And I don't know, it's just one of those things that's really weird trying to describe it to other people. But it is just a really well-written story. Like, I looked on my anime list before starting it, like, to, you know, get some info about it, if it was still ongoing, that kind of thing. And yeah, it's ranked number 6th out of, you know, however many manga are on there, because it has, like, a 9 out of 10. Like, people really like this. And I can see why. Because it's just so well written. And basically, to describe what I've read up to now, I've read about, like, the elementary and middle school years of Punpun. I read about how he falls in love with this little girl named Aiko. You know, it was love at first sight on her first day at his new school. And it's all about his relationship with her. And it's interesting because, well, on the one hand, it's very cute and very childlike, like their interactions. At the same time, there's like a lot of red flags. And by that, I mean that, I guess the best way to describe it is that if you've ever watched Forrest Gump, even when Jenny was like a little girl, her interactions with Forrest kind of raised some red flags that she wasn't going to be the best when she grew up. Like those some red flags that she was like on not a good path, if that makes sense. And I get a similar feeling from Aiko, where there's like some stuff she says and like ways she acts. So on the one hand, it's very cute, very childlike love, you know, oh, he has a crush on her and, you know, she gives him like a kiss and it's super like adorable and stuff. At the same time, there's a lot of red flags. And so that's very interesting. And then, you know, other stuff that they talk about him and his friends, you know, they're kind of starting to go through puberty. So it talks about them being curious about sex and trying to sneak in porn. And so that's an interesting read, seeing these kids dealing with that. And then there's also stuff with him dealing with his family going through a divorce because it looks like there's some domestic abuse between his mom and dad. And so we see, you know, about his dad going to jail and his mom's in the hospital and they're going through a divorce. And I don't know, it's just really interesting seeing this story because like I said, you hear Cartoon Penguin as the main character and you expect it to be very goofy. And I mean, it does have some goofy moments, but it's such a deep and really well-crafted story. And I haven't even gotten to like the very dark stuff yet. Like I've heard it gets very dark as, you know, he starts growing up. But there's already some stuff that just gives me the feels. Like that should be the episode of this podcast. Cartoon Penguins give me the existential feels. Because like already, even though like I've heard it's supposed to get much darker, like there was already stuff where I left off that had to do with loneliness and depression and feelings of like not liking who you are. And I don't know, like, I guess I can relate to it. Like I was never diagnosed with depression, although honestly, maybe I should have been when I was a kid. I mean, I don't know. That's a whole other discussion. But yeah, when they're showing him dealing with like depression and loneliness and all this stuff where he's unhappy with where his relationship with Aiko is, I don't know, like I can relate to so much of it, and it's just such sad material. And I don't know, I mean, it's hard to talk about, it's hard to describe. I think it's the kind of thing that everybody needs to like kind of see for themselves. It's a very personal journey as you're reading it. But the point is that I definitely recommend it. I think maybe you should avoid it if you're like dealing with depression or something, because I think it'll like bring you down. But besides that, I would recommend it to anybody else. I think that you will enjoy it. It has funny moments, but it has sad moments. And just seeing this really well-crafted story is just incredible. And I am really enjoying it so far. Like, yes, it's sad. And yes, it might mess me up more in the future as I read into it and it gets sadder. But I mean, that doesn't bother me. I enjoy, sad content. So, yeah, don't really know what else to say about that. It's kind of a hard one to describe. You kind of have to see it for yourself. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. And as I said earlier, it is called Goodnight Punpun. Moving on, the other manga that I read, it's funny because it's kind of the counterbalance to Punpun. While Punpun is very like sad and, kind of makes you feel like kind of down, this other manga is very uplifting and sweet and heartwarming. And that manga is A Bride Story. And basically what happened is that I have this subscriber named Teeny Leaf who always comments on all my videos. She is great at, always being there and watching my stuff. And basically a few episodes back, she recommended that I look at the work by, let me see, I have the mangaka's name. The mangaka is called Kaori Mori. And she said, like, hey, she does these really good, like, timepieces. And her manga is incredible, and you should check it out. And so I promised I would. And hey, Teeny Leaf, I finally had the time and I did it. And so I've read through like 3 or 4 chapters, and A Bride Story is really good. Like, the art is incredible. Like, this lady, like, I was reading up a little bit about her. Apparently, when she covers different time periods, she like really does her research about like the culture and like the fashion and stuff. And yeah, like that's what I noticed, like, first page of A Bride Story, that the art is incredible. Like, every page has some sort of fancy, cloth patterns or, woodwork or architecture or landscapes that they're just incredible. Like seriously, even if you don't want to read it, look up A Bride Story, look up some of the artwork. The fact that this is hand drawn by this lady is incredible because there's just so much detail. And I mean, that's one aspect of it that I've enjoyed. The art is incredible. But yeah, the story itself is also very cute and very heartwarming. Basically, it follows this main character that she's 20 years old and she gets married off, to like, so a little bit of background. Basically, the story takes place during 19th century like Eastern Asia. And I guess it's like somewhere like, I guess, like towards like the Middle East. They mentioned like speaking Turkish and stuff, I think. So it's somewhere around that area. And basically it's about this girl. She's like 20 years old. And I guess she gets married off to a different family. And the funny thing is that she realizes that her husband, when she gets there, he's 12 years old. And while you think that would be like really awkward and the story would go into this weird direction of like, oh no, arranged marriages and age difference and stuff, it's funny because the story doesn't go there at all. It treats as, normal. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I guess it was very of the time. So it treats it very normally. And instead what it treats it as is, it's basically a story about this girl and how she warms up to her new family and how they warm up to her. And it's just very cute because ever since like the first page, like there's no animosity or anything. Like everyone's really happy to be around each other. She's really happy to be a part of this new family. They're really happy to have her. And it's just this really nice story where like she's learning about their customs and they're learning about her customs. Like within the first chapter, she mentions that where she's from, they like to make rabbit stew and nobody in her like new family has ever eaten it. So she like legit like jumps on her horse and goes off to hunt a rabbit. And everyone's like super impressed with her because she knows how to like cook rabbit stew and hunt rabbits herself with her bow and arrow. And it's just like really nice. And yeah, like the art is great. The story is like really heartwarming and cute. And I don't know, I'm just really enjoying it so far. And I would definitely recommend it to anybody. It is a little bit, slower because it's a romance and it's like a slice of life historical thing. So don't expect like a bunch of action or anything. But it's still a very nice story. I'm really enjoying reading through it. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say. All I can really say is thank you, Teeny Leaf, for recommending it to me. I'm definitely going to keep reading it. And yeah, I mean, I guess if you decide to read Punpun, this is a good way to balance it out. Because like I said, one's really sad and this one's like really uplifting. So I guess they're really good counterbalances to each other. But yeah, those are 2 manga that I read. I definitely plan to keep reading more because like I said, I just have this list of manga I've been trying to tackle and I just haven't done it. And so I have finally put my mind to it that I will read these manga. So I will definitely continue these 2. and I will try to talk more about them if there's interesting things to talk about in upcoming podcasts. And I hope to add more manga to the list too, so I can discuss more manga I've read. With that out of the way, I did watch some anime this week. However, they're all anime I talked about last week, so like last week, I'm just going to blow through them really quick. First on the list is Skullface Bookseller Honda-san, and basically same as last week, very funny show, very surreal. This episode was about dealing with like publishers and people who give you stuff to display in the store, and it was really funny. I could relate to it once again because working in retail, you'd always have people coming in and saying, put up these signs, put up that sign, and I don't know, very relatable, very funny. Show continues to be very quirky and stuff. I keep recommending it. Zombieland Saga, once again, continues to be really funny. In this newest episode, it was them about going to like a hot spring and performing for like a business there. And yeah, it was very funny. The way they show the interactions with the girls is very cute. And yeah, I keep recommending it. Not much to say. It's just one of those, you have to watch it for the jokes sort of thing. I watched That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. And this episode was all about dealing with dwarves. And yeah, it's your standard fantasy story. Dwarves are good with, making weapons and stuff. And the slime is interacting with them. And I continue to recommend it. It's a good fantasy story, not much to say. And finally on the list, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. I mean, it continues to be my favorite show this season. Like, it's paced really well. Basically, the first 3 episodes were like one little story arc. And right now, starting with the 4th episode, we're basically on a different story arc. And I didn't expect that at all. But this little story arc is really interesting. Kind of has to do with time travel, and I'm really enjoying it. And the continued relationship between the 2 main characters is great. There is something that happens near the end of the episode that does have me a little worried. And I hope that hopefully it doesn't go in the direction of other like romance anime where there's misunderstandings and all that dumb crap. But at least right now, I keep recommending it. And it continues to be really good. And as long as the next episode doesn't have any of those dumb misunderstandings, I think it's better than like 90% of romance anime out there because the main characters have like an actual relationship. So that's all I'm going to say about that one. Moving on to things that I played. I played more of The World Ends With You. I'm not done with it yet, but I continue to enjoy it. I think the music's great, gameplay's great. I don't know. I feel very used to the touch controls at this point. Had no problem with them. And that's something I was going to address. I don't know. I've seen that a lot of people are very negative about this port. They say that they feel it's not worth the money, and they feel that apparently like the post-game content is only like 2 hours, and they say that the controls are really bad. And I mean, I don't know. I know that's one side of the story, but I just want to give my side of the story, which is that I have had no trouble with the controls, and I've enjoyed the game. So, I don't know. I recommend it. I just want to throw that out there. I don't know why people are being so negative about it, but I've had a lot of fun with it. And the other thing I played was Starlink, Battle for Atlas. I finally had a chance to sit down and play it, and it is really fun. Like, that's like the main thing I want to say. It's just really fun. I'm playing on the Switch. I bought the kit that comes with the R-Wing and the little fox figure. And yeah, just playing it with the controller with like the figure on top, you actually don't have to buy like all the little physical toys and stuff to play the game if you don't want to. You can just buy the game and it comes with like digital stuff. But I mean, I went ahead and I bought the physical stuff. I think it looks cool. I want to put it on a shelf somewhere. But yeah, I mean, playing with the ship toy on top of the controller isn't uncomfortable at all. I think it's very comfortable. I think it's very well made. I think the toy, little parts are I think that they look cool, and I think the game is great. I think being able to just play as Star Fox in a new game is awesome, and I think even without Fox, the game would still be awesome. I think Ubisoft definitely made a really good IP. I mean, it's a pretty generic story, but the way the story is handled, the controls and stuff, it just works. So I don't even mind that it's a generic story, it just works really well. And being able to play as Fox is great. It's kind of funny because he's in the story and seeing all the characters interact with him is really interesting. But yeah, I'm just really enjoying the story so far. Like the mechanics are really good. I think being able to fly around and explore all these different little planets is a lot of fun. I think like the dialogue that they've added for the Fox characters is really cool. It basically feels like it should be a new Star Fox game, even though it's not. And I don't know, I want to continue playing it. It's just really fun so far. And I definitely recommend it. And not only that, but the fact that Ubisoft has teamed up with Nintendo for 2 games now, that really makes me excited to see what they do in the future. Because, I mean, they made Rabbids with Mario, and that was actually a very surprisingly good real-time strategy game. And now they've made this, where they have this new IP teamed up with Star Fox, and that's gone really good. And that just really makes me curious for what they might make in the future. I mean, it'd be cool to see them do maybe something with a Captain Falcon, or I don't know, maybe one of those series they haven't touched in a while. Like, I honestly don't know, but I really like this game. I really recommend it. And all I really have to say is that Ubisoft really knocked it out of the park using Nintendo characters once more. So, yeah, that's basically all I want to say about that. And that's basically all for my week. So with that being said, let's move on to the news. Oh, God, I actually, looking at the news, I'm looking at the docket, and I had actually forgotten about it. Oh, my God, a lot of these stories piss me off, so hopefully I don't rant too much about them. The first story I want to talk about is that Metal Gear Survive is receiving Halloween content from Castlevania and Silent Hill. And this pisses me off so much, because for those of you that don't know, Konami is this game publisher / developer who is known for all sorts of really great series like Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania, Silent Hill. Those are basically the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I know they have more. But basically in recent years, Konami has become this hated company because they not only fired Hideo Kojima, who used to make the Metal Gear Solid games, but they decided that they don't really want to make video games anymore, and they want to focus on pachinko machines, which are basically like gambling slot machines in Japan. And ever since they decided they don't want to focus on games anymore, the last game they published was Metal Gear Survive, which does not have any input at all from Hideo Kojima, who made the series. And it was basically just full of a lot of microtransactions, and the gameplay was kind of boring. And so basically, the game series is now a shell of its former self. And the fact that they're adding in all this content from other games instead of making games is frustrating. Like, instead of giving us a new Castlevania or a new Silent Hill, I mean, hell, they canceled Silent Hills, which was terrible. A lot of people wanted that game and are still pissed about it. I'm one of those people. Like, no, they're just going to put characters as Halloween content, which is stupid. And not only that, but the characters they're putting in, oh, it's just so infuriating, because for anyone who's played Silent Hill 2 is this great game. It's all about this guy who has like a bunch of guilt about his wife, and he's looking for her in the town of Silent Hill. And there's this monster called Pyramid Head who appears to torment him. And the game's very psychological, so Pyramid Head is basically a manifestation of all his guilt about his like relationship with his wife. And it's supposed to be like his personal demon, because it represents his guilt. And yet, since then, Konami's just been sticking Pyramid Head into any game they can think of, and it doesn't even make sense. And like the character's just used so badly, and so the fact that he's going to be stuck into this game is just terrible. It feels like a total like sellout. It feels like creative bankruptcy, and I don't know. I mean, it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't know about Konami and isn't really invested in the games. But for me, just seeing this pisses me off, because Konami is they're just crapping the bed so bad. Like, not only are they going forward with projects people don't care about, but they're retroactively ruining their old games too, by going, let's stick this character here and let's use them this way. And it's just so frustrating. But basically, yeah, that's the first story I want to talk about. And the bad part is that the next 2 stories are also really infuriating. The second story I want to talk about is about how Monster Hunter is basically getting a movie by the same guy who made the Resident Evil movies. And so far, from what we've seen, it doesn't even look like Monster Hunter. So for anyone who doesn't know, Monster Hunter is this game where you run around as these super powered people with cool weapons, and cool warrior armor, and you're killing these huge monsters. They can range anywhere from like dinosaur size to like, you know, they're like 100 times your size, right? And you're fighting all these monsters, and I've played a bit of the series, you know, it's pretty cool. It's like basically like if the game was just boss battles. You're just defeating all these huge monsters, right? And they're making this movie that has nothing to do with the game. Like, first of all, Monster Hunter takes place in a separate world where monsters just exist, and these warrior people take them out. And here, the movie's about how some portal to another world opens, and this military group is investigating it, and the main character is played by Mila Jovovich, or whatever you call her, who came out in the Resident Evil movies, and it's all about her being like some army person, and they're fighting these monsters with guns, which makes no sense, and it just looks so stupid, and it doesn't even make sense. Like, why do we have to have the portal thing? Why do we have to have military people? Like, it has nothing to do with the series. And so it's just one of those things where, like, even though I'm not super invested in the Monster Hunter series, it's just super frustrating to see how video games are adapted into movies. It's just always done so badly. Like, it's not, I would think it's not hard to do, but somehow these companies always mess it up. So, And then the bad thing is that, like, as my third story proves, it's not even just video games that get ruined with movie adaptations. Because apparently, Legendary Pictures wants to produce a Hollywood live-action film of My Hero Academia. Which, once again, I don't understand why. Like, they've made so many live-action adaptations of anime, and they never work. The Death Note, like, TV series thingy wasn't good. When they tried to do, what was it? Ghost in the Shell wasn't good. Dragon Ball Evolution was a piece of crap. Like, I just don't get it. Every time they try to adapt a famous anime into live action, it doesn't work, but yet they keep trying. Like, I just don't understand. Like, just leave it alone. It's just, oh God. Like I said, these stories are just hard to read because they're just so frustrating. Like, if you're an anime fan, you probably know what I mean. It just sucks to see how they always just mistreat these adaptations. Like, they just go in directions where they whitewash people. They add in powers that, like, don't make sense, or they try to put in themes that weren't even there in the original manga or anime. And it's just so frustrating. But yeah, once again, if you guys want to read these first 3 stories about misusing series, they're in the description below. So knock yourself out. Moving on to something that's ridiculous. Apparently Devil May Cry 5 has an ultra limited edition that comes with replica jackets of the main characters. And what I meant by ridiculous is that, okay, I get it. If you want to buy merch for a video game, go ahead and buy it. It's up to you. But what makes it ridiculous is that the bundles, they're so overpriced. Like, I'm looking at it right here. Let me just try to calculate the amounts real quick. Okay, so for anyone who knows anything about Devil May Cry, you can get Dante's like red like trench coat jacket. You can get the bundle that comes with his jacket, but it costs 900,000 yen plus tax. So in dollars, that's like $9,000. So think about that. That's so ridiculous. Because you could probably buy the game, a new console, and get a red jacket custom made for like a fraction of the price. That's crazy. I just want to share that with you guys real quick. Moving on, another story that I want to talk about is that there is a rumor that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate artwork might have been leaked, and it might have revealed several new characters. So don't worry, I'm not going to go ahead and say what characters got, supposedly leaked. Although, I looked at it, and I'm just going to say that the characters that were supposedly leaked, definitely very interesting. And if this is real, I'm kind of excited because some of the characters are, pretty top-notch. But yeah, basically, like I said, I'm not going to spoil it, though. But yeah, the story is basically about how there's this rumor that this guy who basically works for like a marketing company might have leaked artwork of the new characters. And so, yeah, if you guys want to read about it, it's a very interesting story. No one really knows if it's real or not yet. I've seen some people say, oh, yeah, there's further evidence because of this. Other people are saying no, it's false because of such and such thing and it looks sketchy. And I don't know. I mean, I guess only time will tell. But for now, it's a very interesting story. And if you don't mind getting spoiled, take a look. Because if these characters end up being real, it's definitely very interesting. So, yeah, I just want to talk about that really quick. Moving on. This next story is a weird one. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know who's asking for this. But yeah, basically my story is about how Guillermo del Toro is set to create a stop-motion Pinocchio series for Netflix. Like I said, don't really know who's asking for that. Don't know why Guillermo del Toro's bothering with this when he could... I mean, he's super talented. He could be doing something else. But I don't know. Apparently it's something that he's been wanting to make for a long time. And, I mean, there are some really good people attached to it. Like, let me see. It says that, for instance, he's co-writing it with the guy who made Over the Garden Wall, which if you haven't watched it, Over the Garden Wall is a really good little series. He's creating it with the director who made Fantastic Mr. Fox. Let's see. People from BoJack Horseman. Or I don't... I guess, like, I don't know, something about people who made BoJack Horseman are involved. So, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely, like, very talented people involved. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know who's asking for this. I don't really know who's interested. But, I mean, hey, it could end up being good. Guillermo del Toro is very talented. And so, I mean, I guess I'm interested in checking it out. But yeah, it's just a very weird news story. Like, why is he making a stop-motion Pinocchio? I don't know, but there you have it. He's making it for Netflix. Keep an eye out for that, I guess. Moving on. Apparently, there's a story going around that Shazam is undergoing 2 weeks of reshoots in Toronto. And I don't know. Well, on the one hand, I get it. Sometimes reshoots are necessary. It's to do some final touches, that kind of thing. DC is kind of notorious for doing last-minute reshoots that kind of ruined the movie. I mean, like, Suicide Squad had a bunch of reshoots, and then when they stitched it all together, it ended up leaving it pretty incohesively. The same thing happened with Justice League, where they did a bunch of reshoots, and it's really obvious, and it went from being basically a story done by Zack Snyder to a story being done by, I'm forgetting his name right now, but that guy, Joss Whedon. So, I mean, I don't know. On the one hand, maybe the reshoots are no big deal. Maybe it's just some last minute stuff. But on the other hand, DC is known for making some reshoots that ruin the movie. And I don't know, if it ruins the movie, that'll be disappointing. Because I'm not a big fan of DC or anything. And I will admit that at this point, I am getting a bit tired of superheroes. I am starting to feel that superhero fatigue. But I don't know. I mean, Shazam just looked very interesting and different. I mean, it's about a kid. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, Shazam's all about this regular, like, teenage kid. I think he's like, might be even younger. He might be like 12. But I don't know. It's about this kid who's anywhere between like 12 and 14 that when he says Shazam, he turns into like an adult superhero. And so that's what makes it interesting, that it's this adult-looking man, but he has the mind of a kid. So it's like, think Tom Hanks is big, but instead of him trying to like have like a job and stuff, it's all about him dealing with superpowers and fighting stuff that's way out of his league. And so I think that's interesting. And the first trailer was really cool. It makes it look like it's really funny and really lighthearted, and it's very different from everything else DC has made. And so I was kind of excited for it. But as I said, I mean, these reshoots are kind of, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of skeptical now, but hopefully the reshoots aren't a big deal. Hopefully it's just some final touches. But with DC's track records, I'd be skeptical. So that's all I want to say. Like, the next story I want to talk about is that I don't know how many of you are familiar with the WWE. I don't know how many of you actually follow wrestling at all. I follow it here and there, mostly through like memes. I kind of absorb some stuff through osmosis, that kind of thing. However, there was this news story that's really sad, and it's all about how WWE's Roman Reigns apparently is battling leukemia, And so he's taking a leave of absence. And like I said, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the WWE, but basically Roman Reigns is this wrestler that the WWE keeps trying to push him as like the face of the brand. And, you know, fans haven't been taking it too well because they just don't really like Roman Reigns in the sense that they don't feel he's charismatic enough to be the head. They don't feel that his wrestling is impressive enough. You know, that kind of thing. Like, people have been criticizing Roman Reigns because they just don't appreciate that he's been getting pushed so much, when honestly they just feel like he's not that interesting and he's not that great of an entertainer. And so, you know, people have been booing him for a long time. And they've been hoping that the WWE will stop focusing on him. And they'll focus on, you know, a different wrestler. And hopefully, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, hopefully Roman Reigns leaves WWE. You know, he's kind of brought it downhill since he's been here because they're pushing this hero who just isn't interesting, right? And that's what makes the story so, like, sad. That, like, a lot of people were saying, like, damn, this feels like a monkey paw situation where we wanted Roman Reigns to leave the WWE, but not like this. And that's the thing. Well, this is a very sad story. I do think that the way people have been supporting Roman has been very touching, at least. That, well, a lot of people have gone, like, hey, I don't like this guy as a wrestler. I've never enjoyed watching him. At least people are being very supportive, where they're like, hey, I don't look up to him as a wrestler. I don't think he's entertaining or at all, but I still feel for the guy and I still wish him the best. And that's what I think makes the story interesting. And I don't know, it's just a really sad story because nobody deserves this. And the fact that he, like the story it talks about, apparently he's had leukemia for 11 years and he, you know, it's weird. I don't really know the right terminology for it. But I guess the way to describe it is that he's been dealing with it for 11 years. And while it hadn't been like active for these last 11 years, like recently it started acting up again. And so that's why he's taking a leave of absence because he has to go get treatment and stuff. I don't know. I just hope that he fights this thing. I hope he wins. So I don't know. I know this is kind of an awkward topic. It's just really sad. But I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was interesting seeing all the support he's gotten and stuff. So yeah, I mean, kind of a sad story, but I don't know. I still wanted to share it with you guys. That being said, moving on to my last story. It's at least not as negative as all the other ones have been. My last story is about how Disenchantment has been renewed for a second season by Netflix. And apparently we will see more Disenchantment in 2019. The interesting thing about this, though, is that while season 2 has been greenlit, the funny thing is that what we're going to see in 2019 actually isn't season 2. Apparently, according to the article, season 1 isn't over yet. What we saw was just the first half. So apparently more episodes are going to come out in 2019, and they're still a part of season 1. So season 2 will actually be split up between 2020 and 2021. Which is really weird. I don't know why they're spacing it out so much, especially if each season is only 20 episodes. I think that's kind of weird to space it out so much. But, I mean, it is what it is. There you have it. I'm looking forward to it. While the show wasn't great, like if you see my review, I did a review on it. I said that it was kind of in the middle of the road for me. So, I mean, while it wasn't great, it wasn't terrible either. And I'm still hoping it finds its pacing. It was fine before. I didn't hate it. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully it continues and hopefully it gets better. And for anyone who's looking forward to that, hey, there you go. I mean, apparently there's more of the show coming, so, yeah. Huh. I realize that's kind of a flaccid ending, but, I mean, it is what it is. I really don't know what else to say. And that is my last news story, so, you know. But anyway, moving on. That's it for the news. Hopefully some of that was interesting to you guys. I know that a lot of the stories were kind of negative, but I mean, that's just the way the week worked out. Moving on to the content creator spotlight, though, hopefully that'll be a little more positive. The content creator I want to talk about this week is an individual who currently has over 1,000 subs, so he's doing pretty well for himself. And that is a guy named Scouse Mouse. And Scouse Mouse is this really cool, I guess you'd call him a Let's Player? I don't really know if you would call him a Let's Player, just like a video game content creator. But basically, Scouse Mouse is great. What's cool about Scouse Mouse, he's this really chill, really real guy who acts like himself and just plays games he loves. Like, he doesn't even play stuff because they're popular. Like, looking through his list right now, he's playing Bloodborne, he's playing Luigi's Mansion, he's trying out Bendy and the Ink Machine for the first time. I know in the past, like not too long ago, he played Final Fantasy X. And yeah, that's what I think is just so cool about him. The Scouse Mouse is this really chill dude who plays stuff that he actually wants to play. And whether it's him trying out a game like Luigi's Mansion for the first time because he had heard about it and he just never got to it and he wants to experience it with his audience, or he's playing something that he's played dozens of times like Final Fantasy X because he just loves the game, he's just genuine. And that's what I think is so cool about him. Like, his reactions and dialogue are real. He doesn't yell at the camera because he thinks it's cool. He doesn't do memes because he's trying to fit in with the kids. He is playing what he wants to play. And honestly, I really look up to him. I think his channel is great. I think the fact that he's at 1,000 subs is awesome, and I think he deserves many more. And not only that, but I mean, he has a really cool art. Like, I'm super jealous. Like, I'm not to say I'm not proud of my like rabbit avatar, but his little like mouse avatar is great. And the way he uses it in all his like streams and stuff is awesome. So I don't know. That aside, Scouse Mouse, if you're watching this, I think you're awesome, dude. I think you should keep it up. I think that any and all success that you have is well deserved. And just let it be known that I'm hoping to do video game content on my channel soon, and it's because you inspired me, man. So for anyone who's listening to this, check out Scouse Mouse. He's an awesome guy, and that's my content creator spotlight for this week. Check out Scouse Mouse, give him some love, and yeah. That's it for this week, guys. That brings us to the end of the podcast. Hopefully, you enjoyed this podcast. And I know a lot of the stories were kind of depressing, so, I mean, that's just the way it was. But hopefully you guys got something out of it. And with that being said, I don't really have any ideas for what I'm going to do for my upcoming video for this Wednesday. I'm thinking of maybe doing something special in the sense of maybe incorporating spookiness with, like, a channel celebration. I'm not too sure yet. But, I mean, keep an eye out for that. I'll see what I can do. And with that being said, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you for anybody who tuned in. And my name is Wannabe Reviewer, and I'll catch you next time.